It has been 57 days since West Ham won their first major trophy in 40 odd years. And I tell you what, don't feel that way, does it? It does not feel that way at all. It feels years ago. The reign of David Sullivan is only capable of one thing, and that is beating you down mercilessly until your hope and your dreams are crushed into dirt. Jesus Christ, I'm done with all that positivity now. Can you tell? Borgia's thing, it broke me. It broke me. I've tried so hard to be positive this summer. I really have. I've tried to grab and clutch on as long as I can to the vibes of winning a trophy, but honestly, it's gone now, and I stopped caring. But the point is that I'm not the sort of person who dwells on things. Okay, despite what I'm saying, I'm not the sort of person who dwells on things. You know, for example, Rice theft, cool, done. It doesn't make a difference to me. I move on instantaneously. I'm like that way in my personal life as well. You know, I don't hold grudges. I don't care. I'm fine. You know, I move on quickly and I start to always look for solutions. Annoyingly so to some of my closer friends who are like, can we just dwell on how bad something is for a minute? And I'm like, no, 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 we move forward. Let's figure out the solutions. And so when I'm looking around today at what's going on in the West Ham world and I'm seeing, let's talk about the striker situation, for example, with Scamacca and Antonio. I'm instantly looking for the solutions because the problem is I was convinced this summer. I was absolutely convinced that we would start the season with the exact 3/4, if you want to word it that way, strikers we had previously. We were going to go into it with Antonio, with Danny Ings, with Scamacca, and Mubama, if you wanted to count him, right? I was convinced, absolutely convinced of it, because it didn't make sense that any of them would leave. Danny Ings had been in for too short a time and was on too high wages to really look like he was going to make an exit. Michail Antonio, I just didn't see a possibility in him leaving. I don't see why he would, and I don't think David Moyes would want him to leave. So I was like, that's not going to happen. And then Scamacca, there was always talks of him leaving. Literally everyone has been convinced he was going to go since practically the moment he walked in the door. I was thinking that I don't think people would pay the money to make it happen, and I just couldn't see a situation in which we would loan him out. So I was convinced. I was absolutely convinced that they would be the 3/4, if you want to include Mubama, strikers we would start the season with. Obviously, this window has been a little bit different. Apparently everyone just wants out for some reason. I don't know whether it's a case of them feeling like their time has come, like the change at West Ham with Steidton and all of that stuff is coming, and that they need to jump ship because they're going to get pushed sooner rather than later. Perhaps they want to move so they command a little bit more wages before they get even older than they are now. I don't know. Maybe they see their time is done. They've won the trophy, you know, my work here is done type vibe. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But all these people, or maybe they just hate Moyes and hate Sullivan, or whatever the situation is, right? Let's just cover all the bases. Maybe they just see it as done. But everyone seems to be on their way out, right? And Antonio is being linked consistently with moves away. It's said that he sort of wants to push and move out. David Moyes doesn't want him to leave. I still can't see it happening. I think when the Saudi rumours were existing, that would sort of make sense. Big payday. And for us, we could probably command a little bit of a fee, which could go towards something. I think anyone else isn't going to pay that fee. I can't see a situation in which we get more than what? 5-8 million? Maybe I'm wrong about this. Am I wrong about this? How much do you think Michail Antonio would go for? It's the interesting one in terms of our strikers. How much do you think Michail Antonio would sell for to another club? I saw him linked by X, for example, this morning to, I say this morning, when I woke up about an hour ago, to Everton, for example. What would a club like that pay for Michail Antonio? I can't see a situation in which David Moyes lets him go. Scamacca, on the other hand, seems to be a lock on leaving to some extent. I still don't believe that Italy, or Italian clubs, I should say, have the money that we would want, but they seem to be getting a lot closer to the point of, all right, fine, the point of compromise. And in that case, maybe he will leave. Maybe he will. I mean, again, the same report from X was talking about how if we get anywhere close to what we paid for Scamacca, he will go. Scamacca, to his credit, as much as he's spoken about the Roma stuff, he doesn't seem to be forcing his way out of this club. He doesn't seem to be kicked. Look, we've seen Aaron Cresswell reportedly, and I don't know how much I believe this, to be fair, but reportedly not training, refusing to train because he wants to leave. And Aaron Cresswell was someone who, for me, before this summer, I would have pegged on as being captain for West Ham this season. And so to see him refusing to train, and yet Scamacca still training, still playing, all that sort of stuff, I don't think he's forcing his move through. And the comments about Roma and all that stuff, I think we're taken out of proportion. I think we're blown out of proportion, personally. You know, he's talking about his dream club. He also mentions in the same scenario talking about playing for West Ham and doing well for West Ham this season. It doesn't strike me as a situation in which the guy is, you know, trying to force it. We've had players try to force moves. We apparently currently have one with Aaron Cresswell trying to force move. It doesn't strike me as someone who's doing that. And unless he was to put in a transfer request, a formal transfer request, unless he was to sit there and go, no, I need to leave, I want to leave, then it's going to depend on Italy getting that money up. And I don't know if they have, I just don't know if they have it. They're a lot closer than I thought they would get, to be fair. And maybe there's a situation in which we could see some up front and then lots of sort of installments and add-ons make it up to being worth it. And with Scamacca, as annoying as it is, and I don't want him to leave personally, I would take it. I would take it. There's no point keeping him around, but there's no point selling him for less than we want either. It's a catch-22 situation because on one hand, he's not going to play. He's just under David Moyes. If it seems to be that we're moving in the direction we're moving, which is pure Moyes ball, we are back, which after last season makes perfect sense. We tried to do something that wasn't pure Moyes ball. We almost got relegated. He went back to pure Moyes ball. It saved us from relegation and also we won a trophy with it. It doesn't shock me that he would be going full force that way. And it's not like last summer where we made a bunch of signings that seemed like they were going to, you know, change the formation, that were going to be able to enable us to play a different way in Paquetá and Scamacca and Emerson and people like that. Look, we've made no signings. So I think it's pretty obvious that we're going to go Moyes ball, right? In that context, he's not going to play. He won't be first team. He won't be first choice. He just won't be. He won't play ahead of Antonio. The chances are he won't play ahead of Danny Ings. And after this pre-season, and this is the big final point I want to make, I don't think he'd play ahead of Mubama. In fact, I'm pretty certain at this point, not pretty certain, but I certainly think there's an argument that if Mubama was to play the games that, say, Scamacca and Ings would have got, I think he'd get more goals than them in this system. Mubama and his emergence this pre-season has been one of the bright spots for me. Maybe the only bright spot for me, because he has seemed ready to play a part. I'm not saying he should come in and start all these games or anything like that. I think that's way beyond it, right? But what I would say is, if you're looking for someone who's going to come on as a sub and maybe give us something in the last half an hour of a game, if you're looking at someone who wants to start the cup games and not require us to change the entire formation around, I think he suits it really, really well. And I think the last pre-season game, I spoke about it in a review and I spoke about it on the watch along, for me, makes perfect sense. He was a revelation almost. Having him come on for Danny Ings and then Scamacca come on after him, you could directly compare them. And actually, the difference between him and Danny Ings was night and day. It was completely different. He was so much better when he came on. I'm not saying it was just because of him. Obviously, Jared Bowen and that came on. But you look at his movement and it was just completely different. Completely different and completely better suited to Moyes' system. So when I look at this Scamacca deal, I don't want him to go. I would like Scamacca to stay. I think Moyes, at most, stays until the end of the season. I can't see a situation in which he stays beyond that. David Sullivan is very clearly done with him. He's finished with his toy, David Moyes. He's throwing him under the bus, as Gio spoke about yesterday, and everyone who's been speaking about non-stop. Look, he's clearly done with it. He's going to go at the end of the season, regardless. I think he will last until that, but regardless, it's going to happen. So I can't sit here and say I expect Scamacca to spend a year of his life just sitting around and waiting for him to go, because he's not going to get used properly until that point. He's going to be a year older at that point. He's going to be a year longer into a short career. I can't expect him to do that. Would I want him to? Yes, because I think once Moyes goes, we could do something with him, and he's a very, very good striker who basically anywhere he goes, I suspect will go and bag goals, right? But The emergence of Mubama means I'm not as worried about it as I once was. You know, if we had lost these players before when Mubama wasn't happening, I'd be like, flipping it, we're going to have to go replace them. We don't have a lot of money. We're already struggling. Like, if we think people can command high fees for a defensive midfielder, just wait until we start trying to buy a striker with Premier League experience. It would have been a big issue. But actually, Mubama makes me a little bit more confident to say, look, if Scamacca wants to go, if we get a number that's good for us, because there's no point taking anything less, we don't need to let him go. But if we get the right number for him, yeah, sure, he can go. That's fine. And I'm relatively confident going into the season with Antonio, Ings, and Mubama. I'm relatively confident with that. Would I like someone else? Yes. But also, I think having two strikers in David Moyes' mould, in Antonio and in Mubama, probably gives us a little bit of leeway in terms of who he might target for another striker. We might be able to go and get a cheaper one from abroad and not have to look at the overly expensive Premier League market, although God knows, I don't think there's anyone. I don't know who there is out there. I don't think there is anyone. But that's how I feel. How do you feel about the situation? Is Mubama ready? Is Mubama ready to take up that spot? Would you accept enough money for Scamacca? Importantly, I'm interested to see how much money you think we'd get for Michail Antonio. That's the big one, because I can't see us getting anywhere near a figure that David Moyes would accept, honestly. But let me know how you feel in the comment section below. Subscribe if you're new around here. Make sure to hit that like button and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any future videos. Remember, we have the preseason friendly coming up at the weekend. The final preseason friendly. We'll be covering that, of course, with the build-up show, watch along, all that nonsense. So make sure to come back for that. Until next time, calm your eyes, enjoy yourselves, and see you later. Bye.